This week ended in a way I didn't expect. What started as me thinking I needed to take a step back and level up a little, turned into exploring, experimenting, struggling, and eventually finishing the game. The real lesson here was slowing down and not rushing. It was about taking time to wander the continent instead of chasing the objective. The decision, which felt like delaying the progress at the time, ended up being the reason why I finished the game at all. Early in the week I travelled across the continent, mostly revisiting gestural areas. I found a beach section which had a small parkour element, stumbled into an endless tower, which I am absolutely not ready for, and discovered a hidden gestural arena. Then I moved on to the Crimson Forest. After activating 2 of the swords in the statue puzzle, the entire colour palette of the area drained away. It was a cool visual effect, eerie and striking, though it genuinely started to play tricks on my eyes after a while. Unfortunately that night, I ran out of time before finishing the puzzle. Next session, I completed the Crimson Forest puzzle and faced the Chromatic Gold Chevaliere. Compared to a regular Chevaliere, this thing was serious trouble. The fire and ice attacks had extra patterns to learn, and with a Clair and an Obscur constantly feeling at buffs, the fight became tough just by handling the buffs themselves. Once I solely concentrated on defeating the Gold Chevaliere, everything fell into place. While flying across the world map, I chased 2 curiosities, a pink dragon in the sky and something massive in the water. So I chose to battle the thing in the water. That thing was a Sprong, and it was ridiculous. It took me nearly an hour and a half in multiple attempts before I finally beat the Sprong later in the week. What I liked about this fight was that there were no gimmicks, no elemental weaknesses, just a straight fight. It tries to hurt me, I try to hurt it. Best one wins. Finally, after defeating the Sprong, I tried the Serpenphare, I think that's what it's called, the pink dragon, which was a horrible decision. That thing steals AP, so trying to build any form of attack was completely moot. I couldn't use my skills to hurt it in most turns, so I became reliant on parry and gradient counters. However, with the Serpenphare's massive health and the very little damage able to be made on my part, I chose to walk away. As it was coming to the end of the session, I thought to myself, I'll give Renoir a quick try and see where I'm at, and how close we are to actually having the chance of defeating him. One attack took over half of his health. That's when I knew, and then by the end of that session, I had finished the game. Traversal seems to be a weak point. The parkour sections didn't feel difficult because of design, they're difficult because of the jump and sprint mechanics. Characters refusing also to land on certain surfaces in the Crimson Forest made parts of it frustrating in a way that doesn't feel intentional. Combat though is where everything opened up this week. The Sprong forced me to try new ways of using the systems. Periodically after being defeated, I would go back to the camp and rethink builds. That's where I began experimenting with the Lumina system more deliberately. Doing this helped me defeat the Sprong. I then earned a picto called Cheetah. This allows you to attack twice. Then I figured out a Lumina setup which generated AP and filled up the gradient attack bar pretty quickly. Let me push Maelle into a virtuous stance with her gradient attack and then repeatedly use Stendhal, hitting anywhere between 110,000 and 185,000 damage. Without fighting the Sprong, I don't think I would have discovered how to break the system like that. It was the wall I needed. Interestingly, the Serpenphare humbled me right before Renoir. Losing AP every turn and barely making a dent in its health forced me to quit the fight entirely. That frustration directly led me to the Renoir attempt. Sometimes a game will push you sideways before moving you forward. This week made the world feel bigger than the main story. I found a casino that I couldn't interact with, a reminder of how much I'd missed while staying focused on the story. It made the continent feel layered with distractions that didn't feel just like filler. Then the ending came. After defeating Renoir and earning Maelle's time to grieve within the painting, the story turned deeply tragic. Verso begging Maelle to stop the boy from painting, pleading because he didn't want this life. It hit hard. He wasn't fighting for survival, he was fighting for release. And then the cut forward. Maelle attended a performance by Verso, his hesitation and the flicker of Maelle resembling her mother, the implication that she may now be the new paintress. It reframes everything. Was this Verso's intention all along? The world suddenly feels trapped in a cycle. Oddly, it wasn't the final blow to Renoir. It was the first blow where I removed half his health bar, the moment of realization of, oh, I can actually do this. And on the narrative side, Verso begging to die. That contrast between mechanical dominance and emotional helplessness is going to stay with me. Honestly, I'm leaving it proud. Not because I rushed to the end, but because I didn't. Taking an extra week to explore, to build, to fight something that didn't need to be fought, made the ending possible. Slowing down was the correct choice. It showed that a clean sprint to the finish wasn't what was needed. It was a detour-filled journey that ended exactly the way it was supposed to, and honestly, it was the perfect way to finish the game. I am currently writing a final review, which will go up next week, so please come back to watch it.